Breaking news. Holy cow. I'm getting breaking news. I'm starting to get just paranoid here. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle has resigned. She has resigned her position. This is after a withering attack yesterday in which she was stonewalling, not giving information. You have bipartisan support in this. You have Republicans and Democrats calling on her to step down, to resign, and we're just getting news that she has. We will keep you abreast of the developing situation. But Republicans, like Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, are calling on President Biden to do the same thing. Resign, step down, or in the alternative, calling on his cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. But Joe says, or his puppet masters are saying, you know what, they're not going to do it. They're saying he's going to finish his first term, which concludes January 20th, 2025. Joining us in the center ring is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser, a former lieutenant commander in the United States Navy and a past president of Arizona Medical Association, is a vocal foe of radical Islam and Joe Biden and Joe's fellow Democrats like Greg Stanton. Dr. Jasser came into the national and international stage unexpectedly after 9/11 when he stood up as the lone voice calling for reform and eradication of radical Islamist ideology to come from within Islam. He's he founded the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, a counter-ideology, counter-terrorism group right here in the Valley. He is the leading figure against radical Islam and a Republican for Congress. As a matter of fact, he's running in CD4. We welcome Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. You just heard the news. We have Director Cheatle is resigning from the Secret Service. And you know what, Dr. Jasser? I think that she was part of the whole protect Joe Biden. I think that she has a keen awareness of just how bad a shape Joe Biden is in.
Oh, exactly. It's great to be with you, James T. You know, listen, the lies continue, and this is just one that they could no longer hold on to. And you notice she resigned without us even hearing from the president at all. He phoned in a speakerphone call to Kamala yesterday, and we still don't know what's going on with him. The bottom line is this cover-up continues. And listen, I understand, you know, there might be some political expediency to President Biden staying in office and not letting Kamala have the strength of incumbency. But listen, there's 6 months left. The Chinese are already, the Taiwanese rather, are already demonstrating some strength against China because they're concerned about what's happening there. We see our security apparatus falling apart with our border open. The economy is in shambles. And bottom line is we can't have the establishment continue to have this oligarchy that props up a puppet and then expects us to sort of accept that there's a shadow government behind the scenes. And I'm a physician, primary care. I know the process in which dementia slow rolls over years. I was talking about Biden being not compos mentis over a year ago. And the bottom line is now he decides he can't run. And his facilitators, his enablers, be it his family, his handlers, the cabinet, and others, you know, listen, enough is enough. We have 6 months until President Trump can right this ship. And in the meantime, stop lying to the American public, have him resign, and tell us who is actually running this country, and let Kamala step up as per constitutional protections.
You know, Dr. Jasser, Biden is obviously incapacitated, but Democrats like Greg Stanton praise him for stopping his reelection and stop short of calling for him to step down. I mean, what you are suggesting, I think, is common sense. What we're seeing from the Democrats is abuse, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's abuse. It's a puppet type regime. And it sort of shows that the left isn't about saving democracy. That's a sham. The left is about basically propping up the Obama 3.0 process machine and ignoring the will of the people. And this is why folks that have fought against the establishment, like the conservatives, are going to renew America's promise. And Greg Stanton is the empty suit that has basically finally come out of hibernation a couple weeks ago and called for Biden to step down from the ticket. But he has been rubber stamping the shadow government's policies now for years. That has included an open border, inflationary economy, and taking away the rights of citizens in the names of the far left progressivist regime. So at the end of the day, it's time for a reckoning. And, the resignation of Cheatle basically shows that, our president is vulnerable. And we need real leadership. And Stanton is so missing in action and so out of touch with the American people. It's time that he have real competition in November.
Dr. Jasser, after Biden resigned this weekend from the nomination of his party, the first act of whoever is actually running the White House would be to have Biden officially pardon his physician for lying to the American people for years about cognitive executive capacity and the omission of the diagnosis from the medical record. Now, I couldn't agree with you more. That's what you tweeted. What obligation does a physician have in this case?
Listen, I will remind all of my medical colleagues, and listen, I've not examined President Biden, but you don't need to examine him to know the president's physician releases a very detailed physical that talks about his previous brain hemorrhage, his atrial fibrillation, all of the prior medical history that then reassures the American public that our military medical unit, the White House medical unit, guarantees that the president has good physical capacity. And he even states that. And yet, at the end of the day, that is not a reality. The reality is he's missing the most prominent diagnosis. And if you say, well, this is a private diagnosis, well, then don't release any physical. Either you're going to be true to the American people and release all of the diagnoses, most notably cognitive impairment, senile degeneration of the brain, or not. Listen, I was a Navy doc. I guaranteed SEALs were healthy to go to deployment. Our nuclear submariners were able to deploy 9 months undersea. And if I didn't do that right, I'd be court-martialed under the UCMJ because I let somebody without mental capacity, either due to psychiatric or other condition, go and be able to operate nuclear weapons. And yet our commander-in-chief is propped up like a stuffed, puppet, and yet nobody says anything. This is an insult to the freest, largest, most powerful country in the planet.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, I thank you very much for that piece right there, because you're absolutely right. Here's a guy who's looking at Navy SEALs. He had to clear them. Well, here's a doctor who does not is clearing Biden when he has something obviously is wrong with him. What the hell? And we have a Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. He's running in CD4. Make sure you look into him. This is very interesting what's going on here.